All right. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. I always do this every time. I always say good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to our fourth and final iteration of our Open Doors program that we've been having going on here over at CultureWorks during Artober. My name is Callie Bain. I am the Community Engagement Strategist over at CultureWorks, and I'm joined this morning by some fellow CultureWorks staff. We have Mary Burris, our Advancement and Grant Strategist, Daniel Jones, our Tri-Cities Program Manager, and Scott Garka, President over at CultureWorks. For anyone here who might be unfamiliar with CultureWorks, we are a nonprofit dedicated to strengthening artists and arts and culture organizations to increase their impact in our region. And we do that in a number of different ways. Most notably, we offer an annual grant that artists and arts and culture organizations can apply for to fund their many diverse initiatives. And we also have non-grants programming, including some of these virtual talks to provide resources and information to artists and organizations, and a quarterly networking mixer that will be returning in January. And our 9th annual Artober that is just almost wrapped up, our month-long celebration of arts and culture. There's still a couple more things you can get involved with in Artober. It's not over quite yet. Tonight we have two, actually one of them sold out, I believe. One Pay What You Will event happening at Shako Sessions Live. If any of you have ever or not been to a Shako Sessions Live, they're incredible. I highly recommend it. You can pay your own, you can name your price of admission, excuse me, and take some classes at the Robinson Theater this week to wrap up Artober, all Pay What You Will pricing. So it's been a great month. We've been having a good time, and we've been having a good
Hey,
time.
Kelly,
Yep.
sorry, I want to plug that we also have an event through Fifth Wall Theater, Hitler's Tasters tonight, which is also sold out. So just wanted to mention that.
Yep, that's the one that sold out. Shako Sessions has not sold out yet. Um, anyway, thank you, Mary. Great. Okay, well, let's introduce our speaker for today. We have Yvonne Mastromano with us this afternoon, who joined the Virginia Voice team in January of 2022 as the Chief Executive Officer. She had the opportunity to graduate high school early after being accepted into the music program at Ithaca College at age 16. She went on to earn her Bachelor's of Music degree with an emphasis in piano and a minor in voice. Later, Yvonne moved to Virginia and was hired by NBC 12 in the 1990s and became known as the Traffic Lady while reporting daily from a variety of live locations throughout the region. 10 years later, Yvonne returned to nonprofit work where she was hired as the executive director of the Innsbrook Foundation, where she spent almost a decade. And now, as CEO of Virginia Voice, Yvonne and her team are working to raise funds to prepare for the expanding demographic of individuals who can benefit from all of their services. And I was listening to Yvonne share some of their services they have going on and all the events they're working these next couple months, and it's really incredible. Thank you, Yvonne, for joining us this morning and sharing a little bit about what's going on with Virginia Voice.
Well, thank you, Callie. It is always our pleasure and our honor to be able to tell a little bit about the Virginia Voice story. And I am particularly excited to continue our partnership with CultureWorks Richmond. We've been working together for many years, and we've received so much support, and collaboration has really helped us build the live audio description program in ways we wouldn't have been able to do without our partnership. So thank you. And thank you for today. I love to talk. So, you can give me a high sign or just cut the mic, whatever works for you. But it is really a pleasure to be able to talk about what we're doing. And we have had a great deal of growth. In fact, live audio description is probably the fastest growing program we do, though we do a lot of other things. So I'll talk a little bit about that. We can go ahead and start the PowerPoint presentation if you would.
Great, yeah. One thing I failed to mention is that this session is being recorded, just so everyone on this call knows. So if you wish to go back and look at anything, we do post these on our YouTube channel, and you can go back and take a look at our past open door sessions as well. All right, let's get into it. Great.
So what you're looking at is our new logo. You're not the first eyes to see it and to enjoy it, but you're among the first. It's really hot off the press, literally. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but just in case there are those folks who have a vision impairment who are joining us today, the logo, the Virginia Voice logo, which was created by Red Orange Studio. Love them. Small creative shop, and they are phenomenal. You have vertical lines, and these vertical lines go from left to right. They start off small, and there are some peaks and valleys along the way. At lines 7 and 8, the other lines are white. This is our reverse logo. We have it in another color you'll see later. But the other lines are white, but right at 7 and 8, you have a burnt orange line and then a teal green line. And these lines have dots above them. And then we continue and sloping down with 2 more white lines. I'm intentionally not telling you what the logo stands for because it's kind of fun. We can do this at the end and do a little interactive, and you can tell me what you think it represents. But this is our brand new logo. The words Virginia Voice is part of the logo. Of course, the top part is the mark. And the font that was chosen is Ubuntu font. And so there you have it. This is part of this is our logo and will be used across the lines of service. But we are going to focus a little bit on live audio description today because that is the service where we really pour into the arts and culture of Richmond. But I'm going to step back just for a moment and talk about the history of Virginia Voice. Virginia Voice has been around for 46 years. And in 1978, Virginia Voice was founded by Roy Ward. Roy Ward was blind himself, and he gathered some colleagues because he knew that this area of Virginia needed a live audio, needed a radio reading service. Now, he wanted to focus on Central Virginia, but the reason that we're called Virginia Voice is because his original vision was that we would become Virginia Voice for the entire Commonwealth. Well, there was a 2-hour broadcast, handful of folks helping out, and a handful of folks who were listening. And 46 years later, we have a 24/7 broadcast, and we serve over 11,000 Central Virginians. We have about 150 volunteers who read from over 200 publications. So what are they reading? They're reading everything you and I want to hear and want to know about. Local news. They want to know about national news and politics, believe it or not. We include all of that. We also include information that would be significant to their lived experience, like health news, assistive technology. But then we go across the board with gardening and animal care, the great outdoors. We have a number of really cool programs. We have some volunteers who read from books. And so all of that is part of our core, what we call our core competency with our broadcast, giving access to print materials. And in 2017, a former CEO, Jim Work, realized that there was something called live audio description going on, but it was not happening in Central Virginia. So that was begun here at Virginia Voice through a partnership with the Virginia Repertory Theater in a pilot program. And it was very successful. Our listeners immediately started participating. And we heard things like, you know, we love the theater, but we have not been to the theater in many years because we just couldn't enjoy it like everyone else. So live audio description does that. It is the essence of accessibility and inclusion, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've been able to expand that program because of partnerships, community partnerships. And with community partnerships, we can also create more diverse programming. So today we provide audio description through partnerships with over a dozen community organizations. We have over 30 events each year, and our audience literally loves it. They just enjoy so much being a part of the rich culture of the Richmond community. And our growing list of community partners includes many, many organizations, as you can see. CultureWorks Richmond, one of them. We really enjoy working with you. But we also have Sportable, Friendship Circle, Science Museum, Spark. You can see how many. We also help to include our veterans through the Virginia War Memorial. We have audio described the Shrine of Memory. So at a place like Virginia War Memorial, the Valentine, and other museums, when you go to that museum, you can ask for the audio description. It's already there, ready for you, and you can listen along with your family. So again, you have that you sort of unified experience with family and friends. We recently audio described a garden tour at Agecroft Hall and Gardens. This past Sunday, we were at the Gottwald Theater at Dominion Energy Center, and we audio described Lord of the Flies, which was a Richmond Shakespeare production. Coming up in December, on the 7th of December, for the second time only in 40 years, we are going to audio describe the Christmas parade. And when I say we audio describe it, I don't mean, we're going to wait for a recording. We are there on Broad Street, sitting right there on Broad Street. Our listeners and our describers are right alongside one another, and the describers are bringing to life all the many visual aspects of a parade, which, if you think about a parade, you got balloons, you've got marching bands, you've got floats. It's really very visually centric. And so our describers bring all that to life, and that is because of the Dominion Energy Christmas Parade and CBS 6. We're so grateful for all of our many partners. So let's talk a little bit about accessibility. We're going to talk about inclusion with the next slide. We create equitable access. What does that really mean? It sounds very, oh, I'm sorry, if you could go back. We create equitable access, and we do that through our programming and also through our broadcasts. And so it's a combination of accessibility and inclusion, and the community is central to all of that. And now moving ahead, we create accessibility because we believe that working towards a more accessible opportunities is a community imperative, but it's also the law. So all those partners that you saw, when we go to the theater, of course, we create accessibility, and we're focusing on doing that for our listeners. But let's face it, we're also doing it for those partners. Without Virginia Voices audio descriptions, they would not be a part of that accessibility solution. And so we do that for all of our partners as well. And we do this by removing the barriers to access. We bring the world to our listeners and connect our listeners to the rich culture of our communities. And those of us who've been in Richmond for some time, you've seen all of these opportunities grow. Much of that is because of the work that CultureWorks Richmond does. But it's a whole complement, right? We have how did we get into travel and leisure as the top 25 locations in the world for beer and food? We just have a lot going on in Richmond. People are coming here from the north, from the south. They want to be a part of Richmond. And no doubt, a big part of that is because you can go see the opera, or you can go to a musical. You can go to the Science Museum with all their amazing exhibits. You can see all of these many things. Well, we can see all them, but without accessibility, that means part of our community is left out of the equation. So as we move ahead, in addition to it being being the law, it's also a way to include everyone in our community. When we create inclusive opportunities, that ensures our listeners are included in the experience, but it also means that our community is strengthened. I don't know about you, but I have not done anything in my life where I've moved ahead by myself. Not one thing. I've needed others. I've needed the community that supported me, whatever that community is for you, and for me might be different, but I needed that community to make it all come together. When we come together as a unified community, and we work on accessibility and inclusion for everyone, we actually strengthen the resiliency of our community, because now we're holistic, right? Now, someone who is 65 or 70 or 85 years old, who was a doctor or a lawyer or an artist or whatever they were in their career, and when they retired, because of losing vision, which happens to a lot of people, they still have a lot to offer. So we need them included in that community. And one of the number one things that is cited when you do research about what older adults need is a sense of belonging. So we need to make sure we include them to foster belonging. And I'm sure I'm singing to the choir when I tell you and remind you that the fastest growing segment of our community are older adults. By 2030, just 6 years from now, about 1 in 5 adults will be 60 and over. By 2034, older adults for the first time in US history will actually outnumber children. There are a lot of people growing older and staying healthy. And so we need to make sure we include those folks in our community. About 85% of the people that Virginia Voice serves are older adults. However, when I say that, live audio description does something very magical for us. It sort of broadens our age demographic, because grandparents bring their grandchildren, or children, adult children bring mom to see something, a play or an exhibit or a baseball game. We do a lot of those as well. And that wouldn't happen without the audio description moving ahead. And so community is really at the heart of everything that we do. We're always interested in building more partnerships. Some of the partnerships that weren't on that earlier slide include agencies and other organizations that serve older adults, like the Department of Aging and Disabilities for the City of Richmond, Hanover, Henrico. We work with them as well. They're actually helping us to serve the people we serve better, right? Because they do it in a different way. But when we all come together as a community, we thrive. And that's what it's all about. Next slide, please. So these are some testimonials that tell the story so much better than I can. Evelyn says, because of your description of the action on stage, I was able to laugh along with the rest of the audience, rather than wonder what all the laughter was about. Beth said that I'm a mom of 2 daughters who are blind, and it's so rewarding for me to have them get a full experience and not just enjoy the music and dialogue. Listening to the description, they were fully able to keep up with the storyline throughout the performance, and then they could even explain it to their friends. We all do that. We go to an event or we have an experience, and then the first thing we want to do is call or meet up with some friends and tell them about it, right? Next slide, please. So how does it work? We'll just talk about this briefly. Describers and listeners coming together. Next slide. Describers are basically doing a lot of work. I can't even tell you, it's a heavy lift. One describer told me that they spent 20 hours working on the script. So they might get a 100-page script. And now they're writing notes in between the dialogue. They'll attend 2 to 3 of the shows that our community partners are so good to give us tickets for the describers so they can go and learn about that play or musical. It just takes a lot of preparation. The pre-show describer is going to be kind of like your playbill, when you're sitting in the audience and you're reading about the actors and their background, and you're reading about the history of the play, and you're reading about, and then you're sitting there and you're looking at, the set, you're looking at the furniture, and you want to know what the costumes are like, all of that kind of thing. Now, before COVID, we had something called tactile tours. So our actors, and you'll see a photo later, actors and describers were able to come together, and the listeners were able to touch garments the hem of a garment, and that tactile experience gives even more information than we can possibly give with a description. And just a shout out to Richmond Ballet. Post-COVID, they've been able to sort of modify that. And for the Nutcracker, they put out these tables with the mouse head and, the tool, the actual ballet dancers and all those really fun props. And our listeners are able to go to that tactile tour before the play or before the ballet, and they're able to touch those items so that when the Nutcracker begins and we start describing it, things sort of come together better. The play-by-play describer is the person who's going to describe all the way through the show. So if you can imagine, curtain goes up, and 2.5 hours later, the curtain comes down. The whole time they are describing the visual aspects of what's going on. As I said, there's a lot of homework, and showtime is when we start. Well, we start talking before that with the pre-show, but then showtime is when we really get into the weeds with the various visual aspects. And one of the things that's really important, two things, let me say. One thing is not to step on dialogue. I've done some descriptions, and I know you're surprised by this, but I have trouble with that. But I try very hard not to talk while the dialogue is going on. Now, that's also a challenge sometimes with something like opera, when you have constant music and singing and talking, but our describers are very skilled. The second thing is that when you're doing a description is to remember it's a description. We're not supposed to interpret the play or the musical. The person sitting in the audience is going to interpret it in their own way, and we need to leave it that way and just describe. Next slide. And so these are just a couple of photos we wanted to share, and while you're looking at them, just to let you know, when the listener arrives, they receive a small device, which is the receiver, and they are also given headphones if they want to use our headphones. And then the describers are up in the highest part, usually of the theater or whatever the event is, and they have a transmitter and a steno mask microphone. And so that's how they are able to be connected through wireless technology. And it's really what we give to the listener is assistive technology. The photo on the top left includes Deborah Hill, one of our listeners, who comes to almost every single event. And that's a friend who brought her, and I'm mugging the shot per usual. And then in the lower right, you have Jimmy Morris, who is our immediate past chair of our board. He is also the orientation and mobility instructor at the DBVI, the Department for the Blind and Vision Impaired. And this is pre-COVID, where he's engaging in a tactile tour with one of the actors. So we're hoping that at some point we can go back to them if COVID would ever just go away. Next slide, thank you. And so who benefits from live audio description? As I said, it's everyone. We foster a more inclusive and stronger and more resilient community when we have inclusive and accessible opportunities, and we can bring more innovation and creativity and collaboration into the community. Next slide, please. And so now what we'd like to do here, Callie, is I want to play this first without a description, and then play it again, and I'll do a live audio description for everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
I wonder that you will still be talking, Senor Benedict. Nobody marks you.
What, my dear Lady Disdain? Are you yet living?
Is it possible Disdain should die while she has such meat food to feed it in Senor Benedict? Courtesy itself must convert to disdain if you come in her presence.
Then is courtesy a turncoat? But it is certain I'm loved of all ladies, only you excepted. And I would I could find in my heart that I had not a hard heart, but truly I love none.
Dear happiness to women, they would else have been troubled with a pernicious suitor. I thank God in my cold blood I am of your humor for that. I had rather hear my dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me.
Oh, God, keep your ladyship still in that mind. So some gentleman or other shall escape a predestined scratched face.
Scratching could not make it worse where such a face as yours were.
Okay, so before we begin it again, I just want to set it up for you. There are obviously young folks, ladies and men. They are standing before a brick home or a brick building. On the side of the brick building, it says Stacy Adams 2020. The woman, when it opens, is sitting on a stone wall. She is wearing a long sweater, gray, light gray and dark gray. She has long braids. She's wearing sneakers. The gentlemen are in some sort of uniform, which is maroon, with a leather strap that sort of goes across the chest and connects to a belt. There are also some other ladies who are sitting at a table dressed casually. And then there's a white picket fence in the background. You can see a nice green lawn underneath where they're walking. Now we can begin.
Do you need the volume adjusted at all, Yvonne?
I do not. Thank you.
I wonder that you will still be talking, Senor Benedict. Nobody marched you.
The man walks away and turns back.
This Dane, are you yet living?
Is it possible this Dane should die while she has such meat food to feed it in Senor Benedict?
He motions to her and she motions back.
Dane, if you come in her presence.
Then it's courtesy a turncoat.
Walks away.
It's certain I'm loved of all ladies,
He turns
only
back.
you accepted. And I would I could find in
walks
my
away.
heart that
Yes,
I had
he
not a
did.
hard heart, but truly I love none.
He
Dear,
goes to one of his colleagues.
have been troubled with a pernicious suitor. I thank God and my own blood. I am of your humor for that.
She
I had
walks
rather
towards him.
bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me.
And she
Oh,
turns and
God,
walks away.
your ladyship still in that mind.
He
So
walks
some
towards her.
gentleman or other shall escape a predestined scratched face.
Scratching could not make it worse for
He
such a
motions towards her.
yours were.
She slaps the hands of her friends in approval. So I think the question here, if we could do a little interactive session, is if anyone wants to offer whether the description made a difference. And I probably should have asked some of you to close your eyes, but in seeing it without the description and then seeing it with the description, did it make a difference?
I think especially the setup and being able to set the scene and really visualize where we're at in space and time was helpful.
Yeah, it's a tough one because they're constantly talking.
But to me, Yvonne, it shows the importance of the setting along the lines of what Callie was saying. But you know that Stacey Adams 2020 thing, like I'm a sighted person, and I didn't even notice that the first time you played the clip. And so that kind of stuff that's a big part of the environment they're trying to build in that particular scene. So I think it's very impactful.
Thanks, Scott. I have to say I'm cheating a bit because I saw Sherilyn describe this scene for us when we went over to an older adult community recently, and she is primo. She's really, really good. And I had the same experience when she started describing it. I'm like, oh, I didn't see this. So, I took some notes so I could do it not as well as her, but at least, up to par. Okay, so that's what we do. And as you can see, it's pretty challenging sometimes when you have a lot of dialogue. So during our training sessions that we do every 3 months, especially with new describers, but sometimes describers, yeah, you can stick there. And sometimes describers who are already working with us will come back because you need a refresher. But one of the key things is to be brief. So these are some of the upcoming events we have on our schedule, and we're going to be busy little bees for quite some time, and we're excited about all these different, and we have some more events coming up in December. If you know of anyone who can benefit from Virginia Voices services, everything we provide is free of charge to our listeners and to our participants. So many of our partners now, community partners, will give us either free or discounted tickets. But for those that don't, we actually buy the tickets. And we don't ask questions whether someone can afford it or not, but we just base it on statistics. which includes that 1 in 3 people who are blind or have a disability in Virginia are they're living at or below the poverty line. And so whether that applies to everyone or not, doesn't matter. We just take the burden of that cost of the tickets. Next slide, please. And so here's that logo again. Now this is the, not the reverse logo, the original logo. Does anyone want to comment on what this logo is supposed to be representing? Does it speak to you in any way?
I'm definitely seeing the shape of the state of Virginia, but I'm not sure about the significance of the two colors and their location.
Are they people?
Yes, they are people. And the orange, the burnt orange and teal color, the idea was to show, you know, sort of represent diversity. And then also those lines represent sound waves, which we do audio services. So that's that. And I don't know if you have time, we have time for questions. If anyone has anything they'd like to ask.
Yvonne, how did you had such a talking about your time as getting your degree in music and studying piano and then working for NBC 12. I'm curious what drew you to the work and how you found yourself here.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I have been so focused on building brand awareness and brand identity for Virginia Voice, because when I saw the job, I was looking for a new job. I saw Virginia Voice. I thought, oh, great, I'll do some music now. And so when I started looking at the website, I thought, okay, all right, we've got to build some brand awareness and identity, because I also realized once I got the job and I was out, you know, networking, nobody knew Virginia Voice, it seemed like. And so, you know, that's very important. As I said, we don't charge anything. We do a lot of fundraising, and you can't really do fundraising when people don't know who you are. So that, I think the name drew me, but I was really, I guess, drawn even more by the work. When I saw the mission, I was just like, okay, I want to be a part of this. This is really cool. And I have learned a lot, kind of finishing up my 3rd year and just really enjoying it, really enjoying it.
And as you continue to work on, what's next for Virginia Voice and where you guys are providing your services of all the numerous places, I'm wondering if there's anywhere you have a goal to provide services for, or any type of organization or venue that you'd love to get into. I noticed, or maybe I didn't see one, any art galleries on there, or what do you think?
That's a good idea. And in fact, the Van Gogh exhibit, I haven't knocked on that door, but we really I don't want to miss that opportunity. But yeah, I'd love to do some art galleries. You did open the door for me to talk, and I'll try not to get on a soapbox, but we are not at the Altria. And that is a missed opportunity, and it's not for not trying. And so I'll keep working on that. I need to maybe bang a little harder on that door. I'm sure there are reasons, but we need to be at the Altria. I've actually had phone calls come in, Yvonne, we're coming to town, or my son or my daughter or whomever really wants to see XYZ. And so one woman said, can you just meet us there and do the audio description? I said, well, actually, no. So we've got to get that done. But the most important thing I want to share is that there are 2 things we need to do. We need to do more with, yes, art studios. We need to do more events and continue to build in the diversity of the events. But I also want to make sure we reach more people. And so we serve over 11,000. I mentioned there are probably 55,000 just in the greater Richmond area who need our service, or in Central Virginia. And there are 200,000 people in Virginia who have low vision or blindness. And so as we continue to grow Virginia Voice, that number is going to grow. It's kind of, right there in line because of the escalation in the number of older adults. And we also want to continue to widen the age demographics so that all ages can enjoy what we do. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. And we're excited about that because our mission is to connect individuals with disabilities to community, culture, information. And so we need to keep growing our service so that we can be available. One of the areas that we're working on is to connect with older adult communities because we buy something called a Barracks Box, which is a streaming device. And we buy it, we help the person at that facility to know how to install it. And we do kind of all the heavy lifting, if you will. And that means that every single person at that community who needs it can enjoy our broadcast. And then we're trying to talk them into using their like bands and things like that to bring their residents to the arts and culture of Richmond. So, lots of fun opportunities. And we have an amazing team and they're working very hard to make all those things happen.
If someone was interested in helping out with your organization, volunteering, what's that process like to get trained in audio describing, and how can they best get in touch?
Thank you. That's a great question. You could just call Virginia Voice or go on our website and fill out a form of interest to volunteer. It's very easy to find on our website. Our number is 804-266-2477. Our website is virginiavoice.org. And our program and volunteer manager gets all those requests, and then he sends them out to the appropriate staff member. Sherilyn and Olana will take those calls, and Tim brings in all the volunteers who are going to read. And we have a pretty rigorous audition and training programs. I have never done either one. No, that's not true. I did go through the audio description training, but we are two goals. Number one is to make sure someone doesn't feel overwhelmed by the process. But we also want to make sure that we provide the proper support to our volunteers. Our paid staff, they also participate in all those activities. But we want to make sure a volunteer who comes in and says, hey, I've always wanted to do this and I love theater, it's like a perfect fit. Great. We want to make sure they know how to do it and they have the proper training and the proper support. So that's really key. But, if you love theater and you want to get involved, we'll get you ready. We'll make sure it happens for you.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, I want to open the floor up to anyone else who may have questions. I know we have a lot of Virginia Voice staff on the call too. Hey, everyone. If any of you, not to put anyone on the spot, but if anyone has anything they'd like to share about the work you've been doing recently, or anything that may not have been covered today that you're excited about and want a second to discuss, feel free to jump in on that. Or otherwise, if anyone else has any questions for Yvonne, I'll open it up for a minute. You can either pop in the chat or Mary is asking or she asked 20 minutes ago, I didn't realize it. Sorry, Mary. Will tactile tours be reinstated?
We are hearing from our community partners that they feel as though it will be at some point. In many cases, if it's not there, it's because there are equity actors and unions that are making those decisions and not the local organization. As I said, the Richmond Ballet, Brett Bond and his staff, they actually took a great opportunity to do something a little different with it. I know the Virginia Repertory Theater is working on some sort of variation on the theme. But as far as when we'll be able to go back to where we were, I don't know. As I don't know when we'll ever be free of COVID. But it's something that we are happy to work within, different models. Because our listeners keep asking the same question, Mary. They really want that part of the experience back. And so I don't know, but I hope so.
Well, hopefully soon. Does anyone else have any other questions for Yvonne, or anything they'd like to add about anything we talked about today? Live audio description, all the different services and the communities that Virginia Voice serves.
I do have a question myself, actually.
Oh.
Well, when it comes to the art studios, I don't know kind of where to begin with that. So if you have any ideas, and I mean, we couldn't get to all of them, but if there's some that you feel like would be a good match for us to just sort of dip our, toe in the water and try it out. We of course have to gauge interest, and one of the big barriers is transportation, unfortunately, for our listeners. But any ideas you'd like to send our way on that, we'd love to hear about, because we love creating another option, and so thank you for saying that.
Yeah, sure. I'll think on that. I'm sure that there could be some gallery owners just thinking in the arts district and around who would love to, make their spaces a little more accessible. So yeah, we'll connect.
Great, great.
One idea that comes to mind, Yvonne, first off, I think you're right about demand. I would want to know what do your constituents what do they want to see most, so we don't part. A lot of organizations might be willing to partner, but they might not be, the kind of gallery that your members want to see, want to experience. But that said, I think a place that has a variety of things going on, like a cultural arts center, whether it's Perkinson Center for the Arts on South Side or Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center, maybe they'd be interested in doing a live audio description of a performance, but also have something for the gallery next door, at the same time. Might be an opportunity to pursue that.
That's a great idea. And I didn't say they were mentioned on the slide, but Louis Ginter, we're working on audio describing an experience there, and we met with them, and they're very excited to partner with us. So that's going to be fun as well. So yeah, thank you.
You guys have so many exciting things going on. Oh, sorry, Mary.
Do you describe things like the Christmas decorations at the Jefferson or the lights at Louis Ginter?
So let me go with Louis Ginter first, because when our team said, "Oh, we're going to go over to Louis Ginter," I said, "Oh, great, we can do the Christmas," and apparently it's just so crowded that it probably wouldn't work. So we're not sure that's going to come to be unless we can do something before they open to the public. I don't know, but as far as decorations at Jefferson and things like that, we haven't yet. We sort of focus on live events, not just live theater, but we also do museum exhibits, so it's not out of the question, and it's certainly visually beautiful. I think, just to sort of narrow it down, what we try to do is create audio descriptions where the alternative would be, whispering into the ear of your companion or friend or relative, and feeling as though, oh, wow, now everybody knows that, I have a vision impairment, or are we disturbing someone, that kind of thing. So we're trying to fill that gap. And something like the Jefferson that I love to go to during the holidays, you probably can sort of navigate that a little bit more easily. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't. And who knows, we might get a request. We restarted our listener survey this past spring, which is so exciting. It was really hard to get off the ground because we needed help. And there's a sorority at the University of Richmond that helps us with that. And so we got some really good feedback, and we'll continue to do that. Tim Vogel's on this call. He really led that effort. And I know he's already thinking about different questions he wants to incorporate. You can't get answers to something you don't ask, right? So we're continuing to look at what that survey would look like in 2025. Mary says, the Children's Museum of Richmond. Yeah, that's an idea. That's something to think about, especially when we get, the Arts and Education Center at Virginia Rep. We get folks showing up for some of those events, and it's usually, obviously, parents with children or grandparents who are wanting to share the experience. So we can reach out to that one, Sherilyn, and see what kind of partnership might emerge. Yeah.
Before we hopped on the call, you shared that there's things you guys are looking forward to do, and it's almost getting like a little too many, which is a good thing. It's wonderful that so many organizations and groups are asking themselves the question, finally, how can we be as accessible as possible and do things that you all make as easy as possible, providing free services, you all coming in and providing the service. I've really enjoyed learning all about what you guys are doing, and I look forward to watching you grow and your progress as you continue with your new partnerships and all the things. It's so exciting.
You, Callie, that's very kind, and we intended to do that, but we need the help of the community. And yeah, we're a little bit trying to catch our breath because we have a very small staff, and we need to expand the staff. But you gotta have the opportunities first and raise the money and then hire the staff, and it's like chicken or the egg. But we'll get there.
We'll get there. I believe in it. Well, if no one else has any more questions, I would like to thank everyone for hopping on. I know it was a lot of Virginia Voice staff. Thank you all for showing up today and being here. And we, again, are going to post this on our YouTube channel so that people can watch back and learn about all the resources that you at Virginia Voice have available to them. And thank you so much for taking the time and just sharing. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and we're so appreciative of Culture Works Richmond for your support over the years and for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. A happy Tuesday. Take care.
Thanks, Yvonne. Thanks, Callie.
Thank you, Scott.